In a surprising turn of events, Canada has announced measures that could significantly impact the United States' access to Alaska, catching many off guard, including former President Donald Trump. Site turn 0, search 3. This development has raised questions about the future of U.S. Canada relations and the strategic importance of Alaska. The crux of the issue lies in British Columbia's recent proposal to impose tolls on U.S. commercial trucks traveling through the province en route to Alaska. A site turn 0 search for Premier David eBay has stated that this legislation aims to protect Canada's economic interests in light of escalating trade tensions with the United States. Site turn 0 search 5 historically. The relationship between the U.S. and Canada has been characterized by cooperation and mutual benefit. However, disputes have arisen over the years, particularly concerning natural resources and trade policies. One notable example is the Pacific Salmon War in the 1990s, where disagreements over fishing rights led to significant tensions between the two nations. Site turn 0 search 10. The current situation echoes past conflicts but carries unique implications due to Alaska's geographical position. The state's reliance on Canadian routes for transportation and trade makes it vulnerable to policy changes in British Columbia. The proposed tolls could disrupt supply chains and increase costs for businesses operating in Alaska. Premier Eby's announcement has been met with mixed reactions. Supporters argue that Canada must assert its sovereignty and protect its economic interests, especially when faced with unpredictable U.S. trade policies. They believe that such measures are necessary to ensure that Canada is not taken advantage of in international trade agreements. On the other hand, critics warn that imposing tolls could escalate tensions and lead to a tit-for-tat scenario harming both economies. They argue that open dialogue and negotiation are preferable to unilateral actions that could have unintended consequences. The strategic importance of Alaska cannot be overstated. Acquired by the United States from Russia in 1867, Alaska serves as a critical hub for military operations, natural resource extraction, and as a gateway to the Arctic. Any impediment to access could have far-reaching implications for national security and economic interests. In response to Canada's proposed measures, the U.S. government has expressed concern. Officials are reportedly exploring alternative routes and transportation methods to ensure uninterrupted access to Alaska. This includes potential investments in maritime infrastructure to reduce reliance on overland routes through Canada. Former President Trump, known for his assertive stance on trade issues, has weighed in on the matter. He criticized Canada's actions as unfair and detrimental to the long-standing partnership between the two countries. Trump's comments have added fuel to the fire, prompting debates on both sides of the border about the future direction of U.S.-Canada relations. Trade experts note that such disputes are not uncommon but emphasize the importance of resolving them through diplomacy. They caution against allowing the situation to escalate into a full-blown trade war, which could have detrimental effects on both economies. The historical context of U.S.-Canada trade relations is filled with both collaboration and contention. The two nations share the world's longest undefended border and have deeply intertwined economies. However, disputes like the softwood lumber disagreement and disagreements over dairy tariffs have periodically strained relations. The current situation also brings to mind the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, which imposed high tariffs on numerous imports and led to retaliatory measures from U.S. trading partners, including Canada. This act is often cited as a factor that worsened the Great Depression, highlighting the potential dangers of escalating trade tensions. Site turn 0 search to 8 as the situation unfolds. Stakeholders on both sides are advocating for negotiations to reach a mutually beneficial resolution. Business communities, particularly those in sectors directly affected by the proposed tolls, are urging their respective governments to engage in constructive dialogue. Environmental groups have also entered the conversation, expressing concerns about the potential increase in maritime traffic if overland routes become less viable. They highlight the ecological risks associated with increased shipping in the region, including potential oil spills and disturbances to marine life. Indigenous communities in both Canada and Alaska are closely monitoring the developments. Many of these communities rely on cross-border trade and have cultural ties that span the U.S.-Canada border. Any disruption to transportation routes could have significant social and economic impacts on these populations. In the political arena, opposition parties in Canada are questioning the timing and rationale behind Premier Eby's proposal. They argued that such a move could isolate Canada diplomatically and harm its international reputation as a reliable trade partner. In the United States, lawmakers from states that could be affected by disruptions to Alaskan access are pressing the federal government to take decisive action. They emphasize the need to protect American businesses and ensure the free flow of goods to and from Alaska. international observers are watching the situation closely, as it could set a precedent for how countries handle internal transportation routes that are vital to neighboring nations. The outcome of this dispute may influence future infrastructure and trade agreements worldwide. Economic analysts are assessing the potential impact on markets. Uncertainty arising from trade disputes can lead to volatility in currency and stock markets, affecting investments and economic growth. Businesses may delay expansion plans or seek alternative markets in response to prolonged uncertainty. The tourism industry is also on alert. Both Canada and Alaska are popular destinations, and any transportation disruptions could deter tourists, leading to economic losses in regions that heavily depend on tourism revenue. Logistics companies are evaluating the feasibility of alternative routes, including increased use of air freight despite higher costs. They are also considering collaborations to optimize existing routes and mitigate potential disruptions. Educational institutions with partnerships across the border are concerned about the impact on student and faculty exchanges. Collaborative research projects, particularly those related to Arctic studies, could face challenges if transportation becomes more cumbersome. The energy sector, which relies on the transportation of oil and gas between Alaska and the continental United States, is assessing the implications of the proposed tolls. Increased transportation costs could affect fuel prices and energy markets more broadly. Agricultural producers in Alaska who depend on importing supplies and exporting products are worried about the potential increase in costs and delays. This could impact food prices and availability in the region. Healthcare providers are considering the effects on the supply chain for medical supplies and pharmaceuticals. Any delays could have serious implications for patient care, especially in remote areas of Alaska. Telecommunications companies are analyzing the potential impact on the maintenance and expansion of infrastructure that crosses the U.S. Canada border. Ensuring reliable communication networks is crucial for both everyday activities and emergency responses. As both nations navigate this complex issue, the importance of diplomacy and mutual respect cannot be overstated. The long-standing relationship between the United States and Canada has weathered numerous challenges, and finding a resolution to this dispute will require careful negotiation and a willingness to compromise. In conclusion, Canada's proposal to impose tolls on U.S. commercial trucks traveling to Alaska has introduced a new dynamic in U.S. Canada relations. The potential implications are vast, affecting sectors ranging from trade and transportation to environmental conservation and Indigenous communities. As the situation develops, the focus will be on how both nations address the challenges and opportunities that arise from this dispute.